Divine transformation. Become the miraculous you. In 3 prophetic steps revealed by Lord Shiva. In the heart of their quaint English village, a powerful awakening buzzed through the air one chilly evening. As the congregation gathered, the dynamic new pastor stood at the pulpit, his voice ringing with celestial authority. Divine transformation awaits. Become the miraculous you with 3 prophetic steps revealed by Lord Shiva. The words hung in the air, electrifying the hearts of believers like a bolt of lightning through a stormy sky. Sarah, a devoted mother at 37, felt a stirring deep within her soul, a calling she had waited for all her life. With each tale of miraculous healings and divine interventions, the pastor painted vivid images of God's dazzling glory. "Surrender your doubts," he declared, as the congregation leaned forward in rapt attention, their breaths hitching with anticipation. "Cherish the support of your community. Step boldly into your divine calling." Whispers of awestruck believers threaded through the crowd, a chorus of hope rising higher and higher like incense to the heavens. But Sarah's heart ached. Her beloved son, Ethan, was critically ill, lying pale and fragile in their home, a living shadow of the vibrant boy he once was. The glow of faith dimmed as uncertainty loomed over their family. They gathered around the kitchen table for their evening prayers, tears mingling with whispered supplications, mixing heartache with divine hope. Each night felt heavier than the last, until the pastor's message ignited a flicker of hope within Sarah. She clung to those prophetic steps like a lifeline, yet the shadows of doubt and gossip soon crept into their lives. Neighbors exchanged concerned glances and hushed words beneath closed doors, unsure of this unorthodox healing path they were pursuing. Every fearful murmur felt like a weight pressing upon her heart, but still she chose to pray fervently for Ethan. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as despair threatened to extinguish hope, warmth surged through the chilly air. Ethan, with a sudden intake of breath, began to sit up, the pallor slowly fading from his cheeks. It felt like a warm ember igniting a fire. In the days that followed, the vibrant energy of gratitude filled their home like the dawn chasing away the night. Ethan spoke of a miraculous recovery, attributing it not just to their prayers, but also to the unwavering support from their faith community. The village buzzed with the news, a divine ripple deepening connections everywhere. On the day of Ethan's testimony, anticipation gripped every soul in the village. The church pews were filled, hearts racing like pounding drums, and yet Sarah felt a pulse of anxiety. As Ethan prepared to step onto the stage, a thick cloud of doubt hung in the air. Would their faith withstand critical eyes? Would this miracle shine bright enough to pierce skepticism? The lights dimmed. Ethan stood on the precipice of sharing hope. A sacred tension wrapped around Sarah's spirit as she held her breath, nerves coiling tightly, wondering what destiny awaited not just them, but their whole village, teetering at the edge of divine mystery. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding, a halo of faith illuminating his face. The congregation's eyes were locked on him, filled with anticipation, with a restless energy crackling through the air. Sarah held her breath, feeling the weight of the moment tug at her heart. Could this be the turning point for their village? She could see her reflections of hope dancing in the faces around her, yet each voice of doubt crept back into her mind, anxious whispers that chatted of the past, of what had almost been lost. Ethan, still trembling with the remnants of his recent illness, took a deep breath and began. "I'm here today not just to tell you about my healing," he said, his voice strong yet trembling with the enormity of his message. I'm here to say that miracles are real because God is real. Where there was pain, there is now hope. I was drowning in despair, and yet your prayers, our prayers, brought light into the darkness. His words poured out like a sweet melody, weaving truths that filled the room with warmth. Sarah felt a rush of emotions wash over her, a flood of gratitude almost too large to contain. Gazing at her son, she saw the spark of his former self. He was reborn, breathing life into every word. Around them, people were shaking their heads in disbelief, while others began to weep openly, tears glistening like morning dew under the church's light. Hearts were being touched. The spirit amongst them awakened in resonance with Ethan's testimony. They were witnessing a profound shift, a moment when the fabric of their reality began to interlace with the divine. As the testimony unfolded, Sarah became aware of each lingering doubt, drifting away like petals scattered by the wind. This was not merely about one child's healing. This was about a community reclaiming their faith, seeing the miraculous in their midst. The pastor, standing behind Ethan, looked as if he had aged a decade in the span of those few spirited moments, his eyes reflecting the weight of sacred responsibility. Yet even amid the joy, something nagged at Sarah. A fleeting shadow of uncertainty whispered in her heart. What if this was only the beginning? Healing was not just a destination, it was a journey filled with challenges. Glancing around, she noted those expressions of profound wonder, but also the skepticism hiding in the corners, the murmured doubts that would always linger close to faith. As Ethan concluded his testimony, a palpable wave of iridescent hope washed over the church. The pastor ascended the pulpit again, his voice rising into a fervent prayer, calling on every heart willing to believe. "Let this not just be a story of hope for Ethan," he declared passionately. "Let it be a testament that we can all rise from despair. We can all become the miraculous." The church erupted in an anthem of faith. People grasped hands, eyes glazed over with tears, but shining brightly with renewed vigor. Around them, the energy swelled, as if wings had unfurled, and the congregation soared into connection with the divine. But then came an unease, a sense that not all would embrace this miracle. Sarah pondered, what of those who could not see the light? That inkling of doubt flared again as the thought struck her. Had they truly transformed, or was this just the calm before the storm? What awaited them after this joyous uprising? Would the strings of faith hold firm in the trials to come? Or will darkness return once the warmth faded? The voices of hope swirled around Sarah, but she felt an unsettling question tugging at her heart, lingering like a haunting echo in the depths of her soul. What door was about to open, and what paths would they truly tread together in this newfound light? Under the soft light flooding the church, the atmosphere shimmered with faith and possibility. Voices echoed, dancing on the air, creating a dizzying, celebratory spirit. Yet, in the heart of the celebration, Sarah felt the weight of her worries pressing down anew. A bittersweet conflict arose within her, love and hope on one side, fear and uncertainty on the other. Ethan, unaware of the turmoil within his mother, basked in the warm embrace of acceptance. Every handshake, every smile reflected a community rediscovering itself. It felt as if seasons had changed overnight, with flowers blooming amid the remnants of a long winter. But mingled with the joy was a sense of volatility, a storm brewing just beyond the horizon, visible only to those attuned to its whisper. While the congregation sang joyful songs filled with gratitude, Sarah broke from the group, seeking solace in the solitude of an empty corner of the church. She draped her hands over the wooden pew, feeling the roughness under her fingers, a grounded reminder of the journey ahead. Closing her eyes, she breathed deeply, seeking guidance, a sign that would soothe her anxious spirit. "Lord," she whispered, "I want to believe in this miracle, but how can we keep this light alive? What lies beyond? What battles await us as we step forward in faith?" The silence of the church enveloped her, wrapping her in an unexpected peace. Moments passed in tranquility, and just as doubt threatened to seep back in, a soft voice broke through the stillness. It was the pastor. "Every mountain we climb is accompanied by purpose," he said, walking towards her, his presence strong yet gentle. "Sometimes the greatest growth comes through trials. A new chapter is unfolding, and with it comes the responsibility to hold on to hope, even when shadows loom." Sarah opened her eyes, gazing into the warmth of his understanding gaze. Understanding flickered within her like candlelight. She nodded, though the unease remained. It dawned on her then that the risks of faith were both thrilling and terrifying. She must not only believe for herself, but help everyone around her to see the beauty in their shared awakening. As they returned to the heart of the assembly, she felt a charge electrifying the air. Families were forging connections, neighbors embracing with soft laughter, tangible bonds being formed. The blend of joy and anxiety coalesced into a yearning. How could they sustain this? Was it a mere flicker, or was it destined to blaze into a beacon of hope? With every passing moment, she vowed to protect this light. She would call forth prayers that would lift the community, nurturing their growing faith. She would be a vessel of unwavering hope. But Sarah questioned what that would mean for her own spirit. Could her heart, once riddled with fear, endure the flames of faith? Would strength rise together with each spark lit among them? Ethan's laughter rang out over the jubilant choir, and for a beat, Sarah's heart soared. Yet, in the softness of that joy, she felt the weight of what was unsaid and unseen. What if turmoil awaited them on this new path? What struggles, perhaps unseen, would accompany their bright beginnings? In the midst of all this revelry, who would thank God for the darkness that had led them towards the light? Who would take stock of the tides that might shift again? As the final song echoed through the walls, she mentally grasped the hand of uncertainty that lingered, holding it close yet ready to release as faith surged within. She leaned into Ethan, who glanced back at her with an innocent trust, a glimmer of assurance that transcended words. What it all would mean for them lay ahead, a challenge ready to unfold. What trials would come next? And in their pursuit of faith, could they find strength to embrace both the light and the shadows? As the final notes of the hymn faded, the congregation began to disperse, voices humming with excitement and joy. Sarah felt a shift in the atmosphere, a gradual slowing of the vibrant energy that had filled the room. But her heart held a rhythm of its own, pulsing with unanswered questions. Ethan tugged on her hand, breaking through her reverie. "Mom, can we stay a little longer?" His eyes sparkled with delight as he observed friends gathering, their laughter like music weaving through the church's worn walls. How could she deny him this moment? "Of course, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile. Yet, her mind buzzed with thoughts. What would the next chapter bring for them? What struggles were looming just outside their newfound joy? She took a deep breath, willing herself to stay present. They settled in a pew, watching the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows across the floor. The pastor moved around, greeting families and cherishing the connections made that evening. A sense of kinship hung in the air, fragile yet radiant. "Mom," Ethan said, breaking through her thoughts again, "do you believe God can do anything?" His innocent curiosity was a warm light in her heart. "Yes, my love, I do," she answered, her voice barely a whisper. But even as she spoke the words, she felt a swell of doubt. Would that belief be enough to navigate the unknown that stretched before them? "Then what's next for us?" Ethan asked, his gaze searching hers. It was an innocent yet profound inquiry, one that sent shivers down her spine. The pastor approached them, sensing the heaviness that lingered in Sarah's heart. "You know, Sarah," he began gently, "sometimes our next steps are revealed not in blazing light, but in quiet nudges. We must be willing to listen, to watch." His words drummed on the tender chords of her heart. Could it truly be that simple? As she looked around, she saw the faces of her neighbors, their hope mingling with the fragrance of fresh coffee and baked goods. A spark of possibility ignited within her, yet uncertainty nipped at the edges of her joy. What if they stumbled? What if the challenges ahead were greater than her faith? As if sensing her unease, the pastor continued, "When we call on the Lord, we step into a divine transformation. The call may ask you to embrace what feels impossible." His voice was calming, soothing a storm brewing inside her. Ethan remained glued to her side, blissfully unaware of the tempest capping Sarah's faith. "Can we help others too, like the church said?" His question stirred something deep within her, a yearning to rekindle not only her faith, but to ignite the spirits of those around her. "Absolutely," she exclaimed, surprising even herself. "We can start by opening our hearts. We can be the hope and light for others who are struggling." Just then, the sound of laughter erupted from nearby. A group of adults was gathered, sharing stories of both triumph and trials, their joy sounding like a sacred symphony. Sarah felt an inexplicable urge to join them, to immerse herself in this growing community. It was tempting to retreat into her shell, to remain shielded from the vulnerability of those around her, but she knew, deep down, that healing would come through connection, through the very act of stepping out. "What if this is how we ignite the fire?" she pondered, determination rising within her. "Come on, Ethan," she said, giving her son a gentle nudge. "Let's go see what they're talking about." Hand in hand, they made their way across the room, the flickering candles illuminating their path. As they approached, a hush fell over the gathering, awareness of their presence lingering in the air. And in that moment, Sarah felt the weight of her uncertainties begin to lift, revealing the beauty of what could be. What would come from this shared journey of faith? Would they find strength amidst the shadows, or discover the miraculous within their own transformation? As she stood on the brink of that new horizon, Sarah felt that every heartbeat thrummed with sacred potential. The next chapter of their story was about to unfold, shrouded in mystery, yet glowing with the promise of divine revelation. The moment they stepped into the circle of friends, a warmth enveloped Sarah and Ethan. Laughter bubbled around them, a healing balm for weary souls. Conversations flowed, rich with stories and blessings shared. Sarah felt a pull, as though this gathering was more than spontaneous joy. It was a sacred tapestry, being woven in faith. "Sarah, come join us," called a familiar voice, belonging to Jenna, a longtime church friend. Her smile radiated warmth like the morning sun filtering through trees. As she and Ethan approached, Sarah tightened her grip on his hand, feeling both nervous and invigorated. The stories being shared were of trials overcome and battles fought. Her heart danced between fear and excitement. Could she share her own struggles there? "Everyone was talking about their journeys," Jenna prompted them gently. "What about you two? What's been on your hearts lately?" Ethan looked up at Sarah, his enthusiasm bubbling over. "Mom, tell them." His eagerness stirred something deep within her. What was she waiting for? Fear had no place here. This was a haven of love and acceptance. Taking a deep breath, she felt courage replace her doubts. "It's been a challenging season for us. I've been looking for hope, something to hold on to," she began, her voice gaining strength. Words flowed as she recounted recent hardships, her struggles of nurturing faith while managing fears about the future. As she spoke, a tender silence filled the space, everyone leaning in, hearts connected. In that sacred moment, vulnerability transformed into something powerful. "We believe God can turn any struggle into triumph," another voice chimed in. It was David, sharing his own battles with loss and how faith had anchored him through the storm. As stories intertwined, the atmosphere thickened with divine presence, love radiating from each shared experience. Sarah sensed the doubts weighing her down fade as she connected with those around her. Each heart they shared joy with gave her hope, and like candlelight flickering against dark walls, she felt the depth of their interconnectedness. Ethan, sometimes shy, spoke up. "Can we help somebody today? Like with what we learned from church?" The adults exchanged knowing smiles, their eyes glistening with admiration. "Of course, buddy. Helping goes hand in hand with our faith," Jenna replied. "Every small action can reflect God's light." Sarah's heart surged. Could this be the answer? Amid their struggles, perhaps nurturing others would nurture their own souls. Suddenly, a fire ignited within her, a determination to become the hands and feet of Jesus in tangible ways. "What if we organize a community gathering?" Sarah suggested, surprising herself. "We could create a space for others to share their stories and support one another." A chorus of excitement erupted around her. Idea after idea flowed, each one building upon the last, until it felt like divine inspiration was pouring forth. Sarah's spirit soared. With each interaction, her doubts turned to solid faith, the possibilities unfolding like flower petals revealing hidden beauty. As the final statements echoed around them, a stillness settled within Sarah. The gentle acknowledgement of shared burdens was a gift. Their community was ready to become a force of hope and encouragement. "Let's meet next week and begin planning," David said, his assurance reassuring. Ethan squeezed Sarah's hand tightly. "We can do this, Mom, can't we?" "Yes," she whispered, a new conviction warming her heart. Could their collective hope bring forth something transformative? As laughter resumed and voices rose, Sarah took a mental snapshot of the moment. They were on the verge of stepping into something not entirely clear, yet radiant with potential. What would this journey of community and service bring next? All she knew was that they were walking forward, each uncertain step glowing with divine possibility. And as they exchanged goodbyes with their new friends, the essence of transformation lingered in the air, whispering promises of the miraculous yet to come. The week passed in a flurry of anticipation and planning. Sarah felt a steady heartbeat of purpose pulsing through her every day. Each morning brought a fresh wave of excitement, like the dawn sun breaking through the clouds, illuminating her path. Ethan buzzed with energy, his innocent joy igniting a deeper flame in Sarah's heart. When the day finally arrived for their community gathering, Sarah arrived early at the church hall. She watched the sun spill golden light across the room, illuminating the stacked chairs and the tastefully arranged tables covered with cheerful cloths. The aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the sound of friendly chatter filling the air. It felt like a divine embrace, wrapping around her. Jenna arrived shortly after, bringing with her trays of snacks and sweet treats. "I couldn't resist," she grinned, her laughter bright and contagious. "Food has a way of bringing everyone together, right?" "Absolutely," Sarah agreed, grateful for Jenna's enthusiasm. Together, they went over the plans, ensuring every detail honored their intention of creating a safe space for sharing and healing. Participants flowed in steadily, each familiar face a thread in the fabric they were weaving. As the gathering began, Sarah felt an energy shift in the room. She invited everyone to share their stories, to speak of their trials and triumphs as the candlelight flickered softly on the table. Each voice that rose was a note in a melodious symphony of faith. David shared next, recounting an experience of despair that shifted into hope through unexpected kindness from a stranger. "God often uses others to shine light on our darkest days," he said, his voice steady and filled with conviction. With every story, Sarah sensed a collective healing taking place as burdens were lifted and shared among friends. Then it was Ethan's turn. He stood up tall, a small glow of pride lighting his face. "I want to tell you about the time I helped my friend at school. He was sad, and I gave him my favorite toy. It made him smile." The room erupted in affection, and tears glistened in the corners of Sarah's eyes as she saw her son's innocent heart shining brightly. It became electric, this space they had carved out. Each person was not just a participant. They were a vital part of a divine tapestry. Their stories, woven together, grew roots into the very foundation of faith, intertwined with support, love, and fellowship. Later in the gathering, Sarah shared a poignant moment, the first time she had witnessed God's movement in her life. She spoke about a night filled with doubt, where she felt utterly alone, and how the slightest whisper of hope turned her despair into purpose. In our darkest nights, she said, paused for emphasis, sometimes God sends a star to guide us. We must remain open to see it. They prayed together, hands grasped tightly, hearts open wide. Sarah felt that sacred moment wash over her like a warm breeze. The cries of encouragement, laughter, and whispered hopes became a prayer themselves, a channel through which divine grace flowed freely. As the crowd began to disperse, she felt a gentle tug at her heart. Was their work just beginning? Could this gathering transform into something greater, a beacon of hope that reached far beyond their church walls? Sarah found herself pondering what God might have in mind next. She took a deep breath, filled with excitement. What if we expand this? Could there be something bigger waiting for us? Her spirit soared at the idea, a flutter of divine possibility igniting anew. Perhaps they were called to be a light in their community, to share their stories, to help those lost in the dark. As the sun dipped low, painting the horizon with colors of hope, Sarah gazed at the faces of her friends, a tapestry woven in faith. What more could emerge from this collective spirit? Yet, nestled deep within her heart, lingered the question. What might God orchestrate in this next chapter of their lives? What miracles were yet to unfold? As the days passed following the gathering, Sarah felt an undeniable shift in her spirit. The warmth from that evening lingered, echoing like a song in her heart. Each time she closed her eyes, the voices of her friends filled her mind, stories of hope and resilience dancing like fireflies in the twilight of her thoughts. She began to sense that they stood on the precipice of something significant, a divine adventure waiting to unfurl. But uncertainty hovered over her. How did visions of expansion take shape? God's whispers were gentle, yet persistent. Perhaps prayer would be the compass guiding them. One afternoon, Sarah gathered her son, Ethan, on the porch. The sun hung low, giving the world a golden hue, inviting her to speak openly. Ethan, do you remember how we all shared our stories? Those were special, weren't they? Yeah, Mom. It felt good. Like we were all part of something amazing, Ethan said, his eyes sparkling with innocence. Exactly, Sarah replied softly. I feel like there's an invitation for us to do more. Maybe we can bring our stories to others, even those who might not have hope yet. Ethan nodded enthusiastically. Can we have another gathering? A bigger one? A smile bloomed across Sarah's face. She knelt beside him, feeling the weight of a profound realization wash over her. I think that's the start, sweetheart. To invite more people, to share more stories, to let everyone know they're not alone. With newfound determination, Sarah reached out to Jenna, voicing her hopes. What if we host a community event in the park? We can invite people to share their stories out loud, maybe some music. Jenna's laughter rang joyfully over the phone. That's a brilliant idea. Imagine the impact we could have, a festival of hope. Plans came together gracefully. The details poured in like rain, nourishing dry ground, bringing potential to life. They spoke of light and connection, longing to bring warmth to the hearts that felt abandoned. Sarah rounded up friends for support, sharing the vision, a tapestry of diverse stories creating a vibrant, living picture of faith. As the day of the festival approached, the excitement blossomed into something tangible, something sacred. The park transformed into a haven of laughter, banners swaying gently in the breeze, while the aroma of homemade treats wafted through the air. On that beautiful day, hundreds gathered, drawn in by curiosity or perhaps by the quiet yearning for a place to belong. Sarah's heart raced, a mixture of joy and nervousness mingling within her spirit. The sun shone brightly, casting a heavenly glow on the gathering. Sarah stood before the crowd, the warmth of their collective spirit igniting her speech. Welcome, everyone. Today, we gather not just in community, but in faith and love. Let's share our journeys and spread light. One by one, stories unfolded like petals blooming. Faces gleamed with genuine light as laughter bubbled, and tears fell freely, tears that carried burdens, joys, and gratitude. Some testimonies spoke of despair transformed into hope, while others reflected the power of connection in moments of darkness. Just as Sarah wrapped up her invitation to share, a man stepped forward from the edge of the crowd. His eyes were deeply lined, shadows dancing in the corners as he took a breath, the air around them still with anticipation. "I've never shared my story before," he said, voice wavering but filled with courage. "But today, I feel God urging me to do so." The community grew silent, all eyes fixed on him, hearts racing in collective support. In that moment, a divine light flickered in Sarah's soul. She understood that while they gathered to share and uplift, God was working in ways beyond her comprehension. Hope sparked with every word spoken, and with each shared story, she felt a magnetic pull towards the unexpected future that lay ahead. They were already changing lives, igniting faith that reverberated through their community. What God might have in mind next surged restlessly within her spirit, begging to be revealed. As the sun dipped lower, painting the horizon with vibrant hues, she whispered a prayer, eyes scanning the crowd, hungry for all he intended to unfold. Could this gathering be just the beginning? Will we discover how love can break through walls and heal hearts? A shiver of divine mystery coursed through her, excitement mixed with wonder. What was possible when they opened their hearts fully to God's calling? The next chapter was on the edge, waiting to show its face. The air was electric. As the man shared his story, a hush enveloped the crowd, pulling everyone into the gravity of his truth. Sarah felt a wave wash over her, a deeper connection thrumming throughout the gathering. Each heartbeat echoed with a sense of purpose. Ethan, standing close by, looked up at his mother with wide eyes, his innocence soaked with the weight of the moment. Sarah squeezed his hand, grounding herself in the warmth of their shared spirit. It was the light of faith they were shining together, illuminating the corners of darkness lurking within fellow souls. The man spoke of struggles and leaps of faith. He recounted nights of despair where hope seemed lost, and the smallest flicker of divine light guided him back to shore. It was raw, it was real, and with each word the crowd responded, eyes glistening, hearts opening further. As his story wound down, the man's expression shifted. "I stand here today because I want you to know that you are not alone. I thought I was the only one, but today, in this moment, I see you, every single one of you, and God sees you too." The crowd erupted into applause, hearts rejoicing in unity. Sarah's breath caught. The festival wasn't just a gathering, it was a movement. She could feel it in her bones, in every fiber of her being. It was as if the Holy Spirit was weaving a tapestry, each seemingly separate thread of experience turning into something magnificent. Then another voice rose. A woman stepped forward, her voice trembling yet imbued with strength. "Thank you for sharing your story. Mine is different, but I too have felt lost." One by one, voices of the weary found life. As each shared story wove into the fabric of that gathering, testimonies mingled like the colors of a sunset. A man spoke of addiction, how he stumbled into the arms of faith. A teenager shared her pain of bullying, but also her victory in embracing her worth. As stories unfurled, Sarah noticed a gentle change in the air, a soft wind brushing across the park as if angels were stirring above. People shared hugs, laughter blended with words of affirmation. There was a space created for healing, a sanctuary of exchange where love poured forth freely. In that moment, Sarah was reminded of the scripture, "Where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them." It felt tangible, the supernatural presence of God as a blanket covering the crowd. But as the gathering flourished, a flicker of doubt swept through Sarah's heart. She began to wonder if she could continue to facilitate this kind of transformation. What if she faltered? What if they all returned to their everyday lives, carrying their burdens alone again? Jenna suddenly appeared beside her, a beaming light of support. "Look at them, Sarah! They're healing! This is only the beginning!" She gestured towards the crowd, where strangers were now embracing like family. "Do you think we can keep this going?" Sarah's voice wavered. "What if it fades?" "Then let's not let it fade." Jenna's eyes danced with conviction. "We can start small groups, creative nights, ways to dig deeper into our faith together. We'll keep this spark alive." The truth settled within Sarah. It wouldn't be easy, but it was worth it. They were not just gathering stories. They were forging connections that could shatter loneliness in a profound way. As day turned to dusk, a soft glow surrounded them. Sarah felt a surge of empowerment washing over her, a promise that the light they had ignited would continue to grow. "Let's build something lasting," she exclaimed, standing tall. A chorus of agreements echoed through the crowd. "How can we nourish this spirit of hope?" As laughter danced into the evening sky, she raised her hands. "Let's unleash love that can change our streets, our hearts, our homes." But within her heart lingered the question, like a whisper tangled in the stars. What would it look like to transform even deeper into a community of faith? What new adventures awaited them as divinely called disciples of hope? The sky shimmered overhead, holding secrets yet to be revealed, each spark a prayer, waiting to be answered. The night deepened, and the crowd began to disperse. But the energy lingered, like a warm blanket that wouldn't let go. Sarah stood with Jenna, watching people drift away, still buzzing from the shared moments of connection. Each smile, each heartfelt goodbye, felt like tiny embers being scattered into the night. "Did you feel that?" Jenna asked, her voice brimming with excitement. "We planted something beautiful here tonight." Sarah nodded, her heart swelling, yet a hint of trepidation crept in. "I did. But how do we keep it alive? People go back to their routines. Will they remember this?" "They'll remember if we make it a part of their lives," Jenna replied with conviction. "Let's arrange regular gatherings, start a support group. They need that connection, just like we do." With inspired resolve, Sarah could almost see the blueprint unfolding before her, a map woven together by faith, threaded through the stories of those who were yearning for something more. Just then, Ethan tugged at her sleeve, his small face glowing with exuberance. "Mom, can I tell my story next time? I want to share what I learned today." Her heart swelled with pride. "Of course, sweetheart. Your voice matters, just like everyone else's." As they walked toward the exit of the park, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental had shifted. They had ignited a spirit of community, but now the responsibility felt heavy on her shoulders. What if they followed through and it didn't impact as she hoped? The gentle touch of evening air enveloped her, whispering comfort. "Trust the process," she reminded herself. "Trust that God is working through each of us." Then, as if in response, a flicker of light caught her eye. A group had gathered around a flickering fire pit nearby. Curiosity piqued, Sarah and Ethan approached, drawn in by the warmth and laughter. Around the fire, young adults shared stories just like those they'd heard earlier. The spirit of vulnerability was palpable. Each chuckle and gasp brought them closer, knitting their souls through shared experience. One young man stood up, his voice steady as he shared a tale of grief. "In my darkest days, I learned that sharing my pain only lightens the load." We lighten each other's burdens, don't we? A chorus of agreement erupted, and Sarah's heart resonated with each word. It was true. The collective pain, shared in a sacred space, transformed into the fuel for hope. As the night wore on, the group broke into small clusters. Discussions flowed like rivers, laughter echoing against the stillness of the night. Sarah felt lighter, her doubts melting away with every exchange. But another question flickered in her mind. How could they expand these circles of connection beyond the park? Suddenly, the night sky sparkled like diamonds as stars emerged, each one a reminder of the unseen potential lingering above them. It felt like an invitation. What if this wasn't just about creating community within their own space? What if they were meant to reach beyond, to invite others who remained lost in the shadows? As Sarah pondered these possibilities, she felt a stirring within her, a divine calling, like a flame igniting, eager to spread. "I think we should share this with other neighborhoods," she whispered to Jenna, who sat nearby, lost in conversation. "Imagine the impact we could have." Jenna turned, eyes widening with enlightenment. "Yes, yes, we could create a movement. This isn't just a moment, it's meant to grow." In that moment of clarity, Sarah knew. They had tapped into something much larger than themselves. A ripple effect was beginning. It was a divine spark, waiting to kindle flames in hearts across their community. Yet, amidst the excitement, doubt returned for a moment, whispering uncertainty. What if they failed in their mission? The wind rustled softly, as if the universe itself was encouraging her to lean into faith. Suddenly, Sarah looked up at the stars, feeling an inexplicable peace descend upon her. "Then we will go where God leads," she breathed, feeling a deep sense of assurance. Around them, the laughter and stories floated on the breeze, echoing hope. What adventures awaited them, ready to unfold under divine orchestration? What challenges would transform them even more? As the fire crackled softly, the answers danced in the flames, shimmering just beyond reach. The sun rose over the village, casting a soft glow that felt almost prophetic. Sarah awoke with a heart full of determination and a spirit buzzing with expectation. Each day brought new whispers of possibility, a reminder that they were in the midst of something grand. Gathering with Jenna and Ethan, they formed a circle of inspiration. "Today, we go out," Sarah declared, her voice firm like a drumbeat resonating through their hearts. "Let's reach out to our neighbors, invite them to the next gathering. Let's share the fire that God has ignited in us." Ethan nodded vigorously, his eyes shining with excitement. "And I'll help make flyers." The idea of spreading hope filled him with enthusiasm, and Sarah beamed at his eagerness. Together, they crafted vibrant flyers filled with inviting words, sparkly stars, and images that conveyed warmth. As they walked through the village, hand in hand with their dreams, Sarah felt the weight of her purpose ground her. Each step brought hope closer to realization. The world around them stirred with divine connection, and every doorway they approached felt like a divine appointment. She could see it in the eyes of her neighbors, the flickering interest peeking out from behind skepticism. Knocking on doors felt like knocking on heaven's gate. When the first neighbor opened her door, surprise danced across her face. "Oh, you're here about the gathering," she exclaimed. "I saw your flyer. I didn't think I'd actually come, but I'm feeling compelled to join." That spirit of grace poured out like honey, sweetening their efforts. One conversation led to another, and soon the air was filled with enthusiasm. Laughter spilled into the street as they invited others to share their stories. Word spread like wildfire. People felt the magnetic pull of community. As evening drew near, a small crowd began to gather outside the church, faces illuminated with curiosity and hope. When they saw Sarah standing there, her heart brimming with expectation, something shifted in their spirits. This wasn't just an event, it was a reunion of souls yearning for connection. When the first person stepped forward to share their story, a hush fell over the assembly. The knowledge that each person in the circle had their own journey of trials and triumphs created a sacred bond. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he listened, absorbing every word. The raw vulnerability of testimonies unfolded like petals blossoming in spring. Stories of heartache, resilience, and divine encounters intersected their lives. The collective heartbeat quickened with every shared moment. As Sarah stood on the periphery, she recognized the glow of the divine enveloping them all. Their laughter echoed through the night, transcending every struggle and doubt. Hope swirled around them, weaving through every testimony, embracing the vulnerable and uplifting the weary. God calls us to be light bearers, she declared when her turn came. Just as He lit the path before us, we can shine brightly for others who wander in darkness. We can ignite flames of hope in every heart. Cheers and applause erupted, resonating through the night, ricocheting off the walls of the church. Faces glowed with conviction. A sense of kinship blossomed that spanned beyond walls. Yet even amid the exhilaration, Sarah felt the pull of her heart. The question nagged at her, beckoning her to be attentive. What would be required of them to sustain this connection? How could they walk together through both light and darkness? As the gathering flowed into deeper connections, she realized the importance of nurturing faith, addressing doubts, and fostering a safe space for sharing. Encouragement buzzed with the electricity of belief, but to sustain it, they needed a commitment, a vow to walk beside one another as mentors and friends. Days turned to weeks, and in the growing warmth of friendships and shared stories, the village began to change. They held prayer nights, not as strangers, but as family. People shared meals, laughter, and tears, learning to live their faith through open hearts. Sarah watched as Ethan blossomed into a guiding light among the children in their community, his innocent spirit igniting courage in the hearts of others. Every conversation turned into connections that transcended social norms. One evening, as she tucked Ethan into bed, she felt compelled to ask, "What do you think God is planning for us next, sweetheart?" Ethan thought for a moment, eyes shimmering with innocence. "Maybe God wants everyone to feel happy together, Mom, like at our gatherings. Everyone needs hope." His words wrapped around her heart like a cherished embrace. Hope, she realized, was not merely a fleeting sensation. It was a commitment to act, to lift others, and to receive the grace to keep shining even on their darkest days. With renewed faith, she began to cultivate purposeful gatherings, training sessions where stories were shared, fears addressed, and encouragement woven into the fabric of their community. They became mentors to one another, learning to cultivate compassion and foster resilience in those who might even stumble into their midst. As the seasons changed and the village grew closer, they faced challenges, but with each storm they weathered, they emerged stronger. They were no longer just friends. They were a family committed to holding each other up through the high tides of life. The sense of divine presence swirled around them, urging them to carry that light further, beyond those borders. But as they prepared to reach out to neighboring villages, Sarah cultivated an awareness in her heart, a reminder that their journey was far from over. They were becoming a movement, and with every flame they ignited, the divine tapestry continued to spread. She pondered what God had in store for them. What would happen when all the lights of hope combined? As she stepped back to observe her community, her heart leapt with gratitude. They were not alone anymore. They were united, praying into the future together. They were the miraculous, rising to shine brightly like stars against the backdrop of a vast night sky. And amidst it all, she felt a profound truth resonate within her heart. Faith, when shared, becomes the heartbeat of communities. Now, friends, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of hope. And make sure to leave a like now to feed the algorithm, pushing these stories even further into the hearts that long for transformation. Finally, comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Your voice matters in this community. Together, we can continue to nurture the light of faith everywhere we go.